Joining me now is former Queensland Premier Campbell Newman, joins us every Friday night. Great to see you again. That's a hell of a slap to the Prime Minister, given he would think that he's done a lot for Indigenous people and that, you know, they're part of his tribe. But those two really stuck it to him, didn't they?
They certainly did, Steve. But my take on it is that those two individuals in particular have been, the architects of pushing the wrong approach. When you interviewed Warren Mundine last night, you and he were right on the things that need to happen, and that is the focus has to be on building communities that are economically prosperous, that are viable, that have real jobs and real opportunity. And that means getting young kids to school and staying in school, and it means bringing those opportunities instead of blocking them. One of my real complaints about Susan Lee, for example, the new Liberal opposition leader, is that she's a person who blocked a significant Cape York economic opportunity, which was a large agricultural project. You know, and if the Liberals won't support real jobs on Cape York, what hope do we have? But that's what Warren Mundine was talking about, is the way to actually get Aboriginal people out of this terrible situation that we all want them to come out of. But it's not about more money. It's not about more bureaucrats. It's not about glossy statements about Uluru and from the heart and hocus pocus. It's about real world initiatives on the ground. And when I was Premier, by the way, I was trying to hold to account the mayors of these communities on Cape York and in remote parts of Queensland, but with the bonus of I was going to give them all the support they needed, but I wanted them to show leadership and actually encourage parents to send their kids to school and be leaders that actually tried to drive their communities forward.
I was about to say, if you were in charge, I think one of the first things you would do, and I wish that someone else would act like this, you've got to do an audit of where the money's going, where it's gone. I mean, so many millions of dollars have been just flushed away, and no one seems to take any responsibility for, we're signing cheques and it's not having the result that we need. How many times have we sat here like this and talked about closing the gap not working?
We don't need to spend more money. We need to spend the money in the right places, and we need to back true leaders from the Aboriginal communities, people who actually have shown, and there are people out there who've shown they've got the get up and go and they've got the right ideas. Those are the people we need to get behind and back.
On these pro-Palestine protests, has Brisbane had the same issues that Melbourne and Sydney have had? Melbourne's had a Sunday protest, and more than just Sundays, but every weekend since October 8, nearly 2 years ago. Has Brisbane had the same issue?
Not really, Steve. I think, Melbourne, with the greatest of respect, has always been protest central, in my humble opinion. Is it the weather, Steve? I don't know. But so Brisbane people tend to have better things to do, particularly during winter. But I'll say this, Steve, it's really interesting. And if you go and do a little bit of research, you start to see the same names. When it comes to, say, these pro-Palestine protests, you see certain names. And if you go and look at people who've been protesting outside the big Defence Expo in Melbourne in September last year, you see some recurrent names. And if you go and look at who's been behind Extinction Rebellion, you'll see the same names. And if you look at people who've been against the Adani coal mine, the same names. And I'm not going to name those names, but anybody watching this show could go and have a bit of a look. By the way, there's some really ultra left-wing people in Victoria, and they're Marxist leftists, and they proudly say that. They proudly say that they're for the overthrow of capitalism. Socialist left, if you like. The media often talk, the mainstream media are always going on about the far right. Well, it's about time people started talking about the far left. They constantly are sort of disrupting our lives with these protests.
Yeah, I mean, the bloke that is organising the Sydney one, Campbell, I made the point earlier that he's been protesting since John Howard was Prime Minister, and he didn't like his refugee policy. So he's been in on every protest since. Black Lives Matter, doesn't matter. As you say, they are professional protesters. Campbell, have a great weekend. Good to see you as usual on a Friday night.